Hello my friends and welcome back. It's Friday. You know what it means? It means we made it. You and I survived this week. I couldn't shoot a video on Wednesday because I was shooting a music video and you will see it soon enough. It's really cool. But you know what is not cool? North Korean troops in Russia, soon to be in Ukraine. South Korea now published the names of 3 North Korean generals. South Korean intelligence also said that there is up to 500 North Korean officers. Officers go as low as lieutenants and even lower, so the number is not surprising, but 500 of them to be leading the 10,000 North Korean contingent in Russia against Ukraine. I'll read you the report. One of the generals, Colonel General Kim Yong-bok, is a senior general with command of Special Forces troops, including the G Corps. I don't know how to say that. G, also known as the Storm Corps, which the South Korean intelligence service said has been dispatched to Russia. Also, in remarks to the United Nations Security Council, Ukraine's delegation stated that plans to call for the North Korean troops to be formed into at least 5 formations of 2,000 to 3,000 soldiers each and integrated into Russian units to conceal their presence. You cannot conceal the presence of 10,000 North Korean troops. I mean, Russians have been trying to pass them as Buryats. Buryats are like an Asian ethnicity group, a minority living in Russia in the Far East. They have similar facial features with the North Koreans, but you cannot pass 10,000 North Korean soldiers as Buryats. No way. North Korean soldiers are 50 kilometers from the Ukrainian border. According to the publication of Ukrainian intelligence, in total, Russia has already sent about 3,000 soldiers of the People's Republic of North Korea to the Kursk region. They were secretly transported by civilian trucks from the far east of the Russian Federation to Kurchina. Several hundred of them are special forces, and the rest are regular troops. On October 28th, they were placed in barracks approximately 50 kilometers from the Ukrainian border, where they await further orders from the Russian command. NATO acts as if the North Koreans were on the moon. NATO does nothing. If the North Koreans are 50 kilometers from the Ukrainian border in barracks, I see this as a juicy steak of a target. HIMARS should be incoming. A few presents should be delivered by Ukrainians to the North Koreans. Yesterday, my friends, a radar complex was destroyed in Crimea. Now, this is a very expensive radar complex, and I remember at the first year of war, we saw videos and photos of destroyed radars almost daily. Now they are more rare because Russia don't have that many of them and they're hiding them better. But in this case, this was the Ukrainian strike on the Bodlet 48Ya6K1 radar station near Cape Tarankut in occupied Crimea. It happened on October 23rd, but we got information about it yesterday. And these photos are beautiful. That is the state I would like to see Russian radars in. These are good Russian radars, meaning they're destroyed Russian radars. Yeah, I think they can be repaired. This is minor damage, no problem. A good mechanic can turn this into a working radar again. Now, this very same radar, this specific one, is a mobile 3D radar operating in the 2 to 4 gigahertz band, so-called the S-band radar. It is designed to detect, track and guide targets, especially low-flying ones, up to a range of 100 kilometers. The radar is installed on 3 vehicles. Now, it is no secret that in most areas the Soviet Union, for example, was falling and lagging behind of the United States in weaponry and military innovation. But in radar systems and in radio frequencies, radio technologies, they were pretty advanced. I would say equal to the United States. So Russia nowadays also has plenty of radars from the USSR left that still work, that were very expensive to develop and very expensive to make, which they cannot make anymore. So losing these radar systems is a massive issue. Now, my friends, let's take a mandatory Friday's look into Russia. What is Russia like? Have you ever wondered? You have never been? Well, I have. Only in St. Petersburg though, and it was beautiful. St. Petersburg truly is a beautiful city. But now I will bring you to Krasnodar, one of the biggest cities in southern Russia. Look at this, Krasnodar, look, the true face of Russia. Oh, garbage, yummy. So much garbage, so bad roads, it's flooded there. Some little Russian pigeon flying around. It's flooded here. And there's garbage all over the place. Yeah, very nice. This is the Russia that Putins say is the beacon of conservative relationship between a man and a woman. It's a beacon of Christianity, a beacon of hope against the Western freakish liberalism. That's the Russia. And if people don't like the West anymore, that's the place they can move to. Also, there's another video on this thread, and this is a shop. I don't know why these huge stones are here, okay, but we go into the shop. That's the shopkeeper, goes in. Turns out this shop has been looted. Everything is stolen. Look at this. I mean, usually when a store is looted in America, let's say it's like a gas station, they take money from the cash register. Maybe they take like some more expensive product. In this case, everything was taken. The gum, ice cream, I mean, cigarettes and alcohol, of course, money, everything, like small chocolates, everything. Stealing Russia is on another level. They are thorough with it. If they would be as thorough in running their country as these thieves are emptying this store, I mean, hey, Russia would be a space nation on the Mars right now. Yeah, they're thorough. They clean up everything. Now, my friends, I'll bring you information. I mean, look at this video. This is how Putin is getting 30,000 new recruits to the Russian army every month, because if they get less, they cannot attack anymore. If they cannot attack anymore, Ukrainians will advance. The technique that has worked for Russia in this war has been always attack, 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 attack. Because as soon as they have taken breaks from it in the past, liberation of Kursk Oblast happened, liberation of Kherson happened. So they need to attack, but for that, Putin needs 30,000 and more new recruits every month. And this is Putin's cronies breaking down doors of migrant apartments. Yes, I mean, it's a weird sentence, because why would anybody want to be a migrant in Russia? Why would you want to go to that hellhole and work there to be a migrant working there and sending the money home? Well, because there are some countries like Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, maybe Kazakhstan, who are doing even worse. And these guys want to go to Russia to work there. And Putin is just forcefully taking all of these guys, as you can see, they're laying down here. They will be sent to the meat grinder. It don't matter if you are a legal immigrant in Russia or an illegal immigrant in Russia. The orders are to just take non-Russians, non-ethnic minorities and immigrants, legal or illegal. Take them, line them up, women will be sent out of the country and men will be sent to the front. It don't matter they don't speak the language, it don't matter they don't have the military training. What they are there for is to waste up Ukrainian ammunition, just use up Ukrainian ammunition, soak it up with their bodies so Ukrainian designniks or paratroopers can go after them and do the cleanup job. Now, my friends, we will jump to the UK. Yes, because at the first 2 years of war, I remember covering fires in Russia. Factories, oil depots, everything was burning all the time. And now this has become the Western Europe. Because Russia, I mean, the first 2 years of war, they didn't have that kind of connections. They didn't have that kind of network of sabotage missions in Europe, but now they do. We see almost every month this kind of news. I'll read you this specific one. A fire has broken out in the UK at the shipyard where the latest nuclear submarines are being built. Police in the county of Cumbria reported a major fire at the site of defense company Biosystems in Barrow-in-Furness. Law enforcement officials said 2 people were hospitalized. There is no nuclear threat. The Biosystems shipyard is the northwest of the country. It's the second largest indoor shipbuilding facility of its kind in Europe. The BBC writes that the yard is currently building 4 new Dreadnought-class nuclear power submarines. 4 new nuclear power submarines. Wow, we won. I mean, it's good news because they're building them, but it's bad news because the facility is on fire now, which are due to replace the Vanguard-class submarines in the early 2030s, and the last of the Royal Navy's 7 new Astute-class nuclear-powered submarines. Biosystems is the UK's largest defence company and one of the largest in the world. Now, being one of the largest in the world and being part of UK's defence industry, it is one of the foundations of NATO strength, NATO's backbone, Western military industrial complex. And now it is on fire. And it's not an isolated event. There have been fires in Germany, in Slovakia, in France. There are sabotage missions in Norway and Sweden. This stuff is hybrid warfare, and it's operated by Russia, and it's an FSB network of saboteurs. Fires are quite easy to start. You don't need much, but they're very hard to put out, and the damage is very expensive to repair, and it stops the production. So unfortunately, the Western Europe doesn't really recognize being in war with Russia. Russia is openly at war with the West. Sabotage missions are on the way. They're burning down factories if they want. But the West is not acknowledging it, allowing Russia to continue on this path. Now, my friends, let's watch a review of the newest tourniquets issued by the Russian Army, Russian Ministry of Defense. And knowing quite a few things about the Russian Ministry of Defense, I know how the procurement system works. If you are the procurement officer, you are rich. You get a lot of money because you can steal a lot of money. These tourniquets, right, a tourniquet, if you have to apply it, that means you're bleeding out usually. If you're bleeding out, your life will be saved. If the tourniquet works, most of the time, if it doesn't work, you will die. So this is a life and death situation. This is a life-saving equipment. Let's see how they work. You open it up, right? Looks fine. Put it on the leg, start to fasten it. If you put it on the leg, let's say the leg artery is injured. I mean, you have about 3, 4, maybe 5 minutes max before you pass out and then you're gone. So this could literally save your life. This is a life-saving piece of equipment. Let's see what tens of thousands of Russian soldiers got. Oh boy, it broke. So while you're at the process of saving your life and stopping the bleeding by applying the tourniquet, it breaks. And the next 4 minutes, you can think about your life before you go bye-bye. Yeah, I'm not sure what broke here. Something broke, but I read the thread later that the buckle broke, the strap broke, the horns broke, and the marking strip has come up. So almost nothing about this tourniquet works. Now a good working tourniquet, if it costs below like $25, 20 euros, something like that, maybe you shouldn't buy it. I mean, yeah, if you buy mass scale, you buy like 10,000, you can get them cheaper. But if you buy one and it costs like $7 or something like that, I'm not sure you should buy it. Good tourniquet is an expensive tourniquet. This one here is probably made by Timo from China. It's like 1 cent a piece, maybe. Yeah, you can get them from Timo. It's like 10 cents a piece, and they will kill you. Now, my friends, we will watch Russian nuns sing. Yes. You heard correctly. We will watch Russian nuns sing. It's one of the most bizarre videos I've seen. I'll open up the context to you, but it's so crazy. Now, what they sing, nuns, part of Russian Orthodox Church. Nuns, you know, being in the church, sing, "We shall drink for motherland, we shall drink for Stalin, we shall drink and then pour again." And the nun is like dancing, wah, wah, wee, wah, having fun, break dancing. Yeah, okay. So, let's analyze the words. We shall drink for motherland. First of all, we shall drink. Russian nuns in the Orthodox Church, I don't think they should drink. I mean, in Russia, if you say you drink vodka. You don't drink beer or wine. Like, they sing about drinking vodka, and then they sing about drinking for Stalin. Now, Stalin was the guy who ordered mass executions of Russian Orthodox priests and clergy. Tens of thousands all over Russia were shot. Another tens of thousands were sent to prison camps or to Siberia. Stalin personally gave these orders and purged clergy system and replaced it with KGB, NKVD at the time, and the Russian Orthodox Church became, and up until nowadays is, the power structure of FSB, and then it was the power structure of KGB. It was a means to control the masses in Russia. But for that to happen, Stalin purged it, killing all the real believers, so you would say. These nuns definitely in their own church, I don't even have to know which church are they part of. Their church definitely 80 years ago had a clergy member who was shot by Stalin's NKVD members. So they're now singing, drinking for Stalin. It is so bizarre. And then they follow it up with this breakdance routine. I mean, I don't, hey, whoa, check it out, yeah, breakdancing nun. I don't know. Russia is so strange. 160,000 people planned to be drafted into Ukrainian forces, the National Security and Defense Council head says. Ukraine is going to mobilize in the next 3 months another 160,000 troops. Now, this is not going to be enough to start any kind of new offensives or take back any kind of territory, but this will be enough to man Ukrainian units up to 85%. Yeah, you heard correctly. Not even 100%. 85%, because right now the manning of the defensive lines and the units is below that. It's like 60, sometimes 70, 60%, almost half. The situation is pretty dire. Now, Ukraine has the manpower. Check it out. From May 18th to July 16th, 4,690,000 military-aged men updated their data by the deadline they had to do so. So these are men who are not drafted, who are eligible for draft, like 18 to 60, living in Ukraine. So these 4.5 million men could be pulled into the army. But this is the potential. But Ukraine does not have the equipment, the weaponry, the officers to train them. They don't have enough Western heavy equipment and artilleries and artillery shells to form units and train them with the Western machinery. They only have the manpower. So this is the potential, but they cannot use it because they don't have enough equipment. So this is why they now mobilize 160,000, but that's about the upper scale they can mobilize. It's even breaching the upper scale. They don't even have enough equipment and weaponry for these guys, 160,000. But they have to do it because the units are manned up to 60% only. Like they have to do it to survive. But the way they have to do it now, it's wasting manpower because they cannot produce enough and the West is not sending enough. So that's the difficulty. Ukrainian country has enough men. What they don't have is enough officers, equipment and weaponry. But there are a very few exceptions to this, not having enough. For example, Ukraine produces about 20 Bogdana self-propelled artillery systems per month now. Bogdana is the first Ukrainian self-propelled artillery system designed for the NATO standard 155mm caliber. The unit reaches a speed of 80 kilometers per hour and fires at a maximum range of 60 kilometers. So I remember covering last year, okay, Ukraine now produces 3 Bogdanas. Then like 6 months later, now produce 6. At the beginning of this year, it was like 10 or 12. And now it's 20 per month. So Ukrainians have been massively ramping up the production, always expanding the scale of which they produce these. I mean, in 10 years, Bogdana will be the majority of self-propelled guns in Ukrainian army will be Bogdana. And producing 20 per month is very, very nice number. It's mass production, you can call it that. And I'm so glad to see that. Ukrainians are doing as much as they can to produce everything necessary, but I mean, it just takes time to scale up mass production. It's a very difficult thing to do. Now we will jump to Finland, and they have again done something I, as an Estonian, can be even proud of. Russian assets have been seized in Finland. This is the very first time that this has been done abroad at the suit of the Ukrainian company Naftogaz. So what happened is that the Hague court issued a fine to the Russian government of, I think it was 4.5 billion euros to be paid to Ukrainian company Naftogaz for the stealing or annexation or occupying their oil facilities in Crimea in 2014. Russia didn't pay that, so now Finland and other countries who have Russian oil and gas infrastructure or Russian real estate, according to Hague, have the right, legally, it's a legal gateway, to seize the assets and sell them and give the profits to Ukrainian company Naftogaz. So in this case, it concerns real estate. The value of the seized property reaches tens of millions of dollars. The seizure is a step towards Russian attempt to recover property in favor of Naftogaz for the country's seizure of the company's assets in Crimea in 2014. In 2023, the Hague Arbitration Tribunal ordered Russia to pay $5 billion to Naftogaz. Russia refuses to do so voluntarily. Of course, other countries also are seizing Russian assets, and it's at different levels. Some seize Russian funds in the banks, some seize real estate, some seize oligarch yachts. Every country is in a different level of doing that. As a Western country, you just cannot act without legal justification. That's why it takes so much time. It is incredibly difficult legally to seize Russian assets and allocate to Ukraine. I'm glad the West has agreed to allocate profits from seized Russian funds from Europe to Ukraine. Even that is a massive breakthrough. But just to take real estate, sell it, and give the profits to Ukraine, that is a massive step in legal terms in Europe. And Finland is doing that, and I'm so glad to see that. Also, to give the Finnish more credit, this is a real Finnish-Russian border point. Russia, end of civilization. This is in Finland. You go to the border, you see that. And also another, like this is a river separating the two countries. No peeing towards Russia. And you know how they have to put out signs because, I mean, they don't put them out just because. They put it out because people do something and they have to put out signs to stop people from doing it. In Finland, people do pee towards Russia because they don't like Russia. I mean, who does? So enough Finnish people did it, so they had to put out a sign. And I would say this is a sign to be proud of because it shows the mentality of your population peeing towards Russia. A very proud thing to say. Now, my friends, I'll bring you 3 different pieces of news analyzing Russian economy, Russian budget for 2025, giving us a sneak peek of how the economy is really doing, and it's not doing good. Whatever people might say, whatever the percentages are, Russian economy is going to fall, going to crumble. The budget is aimed at ranking in revenues. Russians advised to prepare for a new round of tax increases. So, tax increases in any country at any time are unpopular. One of the most unpopular moves for any politicians to do is raise taxes. And nobody wants to do that. It's almost a political suicide unless they really, really have to. Unless your government is really lacking money. Now, Russian statistics has always been hiding the fact that they're really hurting. But if they have to pull in taxes like that, they are really hurting. Now let's see what kind of taxes and how much they have to increase. The budget has never been so fiscally oriented towards raking in revenues from wherever possible as it has been recently, notes Yevgeny Naldorshin, an economist at PF Capital. In addition to direct taxes, the authorities are introducing indirect ones. In 2025, housing and communal services tariffs for citizens will increase sharply by an average of 12%. Railway tariffs will be raised, fees for going to court and fines for driving on toll roads will increase many times over. Many times means over 100%. Many times over, maybe 200-300% increase in a tax. And what the hell? In 2025 budget, the social spending will get a 10% cut. Spending on supporting regions will get a 10% cut, as well as major healthcare projects, including funding for the fight against cancer and modernization of clinics and hospitals will be cut. Funding for state program education development will decrease by 11% to 589 billion rubles. Expenditures on children's recreation and health improvement will decrease more than 4-fold to 16 billion rubles. Every third ruble of funding will be lost by the project to modernize the social services sector, 16.5 billion rubles. I mean, maybe it gets boring, maybe it's not explosions, but this is massive. This is insane cuts in the Russian economy, insane funding cuts, insane budget deficits. This war is taking a massive toll and they're trying to hide it. And people who just look at GDP growth or percentages on a very limited scale, limited data, they say, oh, Russian economy is growing. It is, because Putin is puking tens of billions of dollars into it, just producing shells and refurbishing BTRs in 3 shifts in the factories, paying wages of 3 times to people in the military sector. But this is overheating of the economy, and it takes time to show. Give it 1 year, give it 2, give it time. But it will happen. Russian economy will collapse, and it's happening now. But don't make a mistake of thinking this is the beginning of these tactics. This has already been occurring for a while now. In addition to the corruption, a lot of things weren't doing that well to begin with. Many things have already been squeezed. The budget declaration is, I won't give you more, I'll take it from you. And I'll spend it on what I consider important. And 2 areas are important: geopolitical spending and debt. Well, everything else as it turns out. And the icing on the, how do you say, the cherry on the top or the icing on the cake? I'm trying to use these American expressions. They even increased the price of a divorce. And by the way, Putin always showing Russia as this conservative country with traditional family values. Now, if we look at the percentages, statistics of divorce in Russia, then it's one of the highest in the whole of Eurasian continent. I'm not kidding, yeah. Whole of Eurasia. It's one of the highest in the world, actually, divorce rates in Russia. So if they raise the fee for divorce, they might make a lot of money from it. Russian dictator Vladimir Putin is now forced to acknowledge that sanctions are causing problems for Russian economy, as their effects become increasingly evident for ordinary civilians. During a meeting with the government officials and Kremlin representatives, Putin referred to difficulties and imbalances resulting from Western sanctions. At the same time, he claimed that Russia is supposedly building economic potential under these challenging conditions. These statements are part of Putin's attempt to deflect blame for economic issues onto the enemies who imposed sanctions on Russia, sidestepping the fact that these restrictions were a response to his own decisions to attack Ukraine. Now, Putin always has downplayed the sanctions. Sanctions are a boring and a slow weapon. People want to see explosions. People want to see ground occupied in Ukraine, ground liberated, destroyed Russian tanks. But the majority of the work in this war will be done with the sanctions against Russia. You can destroy a tank. You can destroy 10,000 tanks. But if you add the numbers up, sanctions will destroy hundreds of billions of potential from Russian economy. This is the main weapon, the most deadly weapon, and the most silent one. And to just nail in this point even more, myth. Russian sanctions don't work. Evidence. Sanctions on Russia have forced a complete halt of commercial operations at a Russian project, Arctic LNG 2, with the facility unable to export its accumulated inventory. Project's gas field output has plummeted by over 50%. In October 2024, from 12.1 million cubic meters daily in September to approximately 5.3 million cubic meters. Despite managing to ship 8 LNG cargoes since August 2024, none have secured buyers in the market, revealing the depth of Russia's international commercial isolation. Now, Russia has a lot of gas. Almost the biggest gas supply in the world, if it isn't the biggest. But with gas, a massive issue is storing it. Before the war, they exported it all via pipelines to Europe. Now, if they cannot do it anymore, it's not like they can just stop the pumping out of the gas. It's not how it works. You cannot just stop pumping out of crude oil and gas. The infrastructure has to be continually used, otherwise the pressures in the pipes, I'm not an expert on this, but as much as I know, you cannot stop it. You have to continue, otherwise it will permanently damage some of the facilities and you gotta maintain it. It's very expensive. So you gotta continue. But if you cannot export it away, you cannot store it anywhere, because storing crude oil and gas is very expensive and difficult, and Russia has not built out the necessary infrastructure to store these in a massive scale, because they have always exported them. All of their facilities are full. Oil depots are full. Gas storages are full. The ships of LNG, the liquefied gas, they're full on the oceans. They're just standing there waiting for a buyer. No more ships can't take it. No more LNG facility. Like, there's no more room to pump out more. So they have to stop the pumping out process, which is very costly to restart later. So this is the effect of sanctions, and it is painful. On this photo, my friends, you can see Moscow, and this is what it looks like. It's an explosion of poop. Yes, it's an explosion of sewage water into the city. Now you might think, oh, how horrible. Shit is hitting me in the face while I'm walking around in Moscow. This is not the first time it happens. Russian heating and piping infrastructure all over the country was like 70-80% of it was built 50 years ago, 60 years ago. And it has not been maintained because maintenance is expensive. And if you do it, you're all good. Your piping lasts. If you don't do it, it will last for 50, 60 years, but then it will suddenly break down and explode. That's how it is. It's a fact. And in Russia, they haven't maintained it. And now the time is here for it to start exploding one by one. And in this case, you can see a poop fountain in Moscow. But in the winter of 2024 and the end of 2023, we already saw tens, if not up to 100 different catastrophes in Russia of the heating infrastructure. -30 in Far East, heating pipes, 50, 60 years old, pushing the hot water into the houses to heat them, burst. Because some of the pipes maybe froze, some of the pipes corroded, and many towns and villages did not have hot water and heating in -30 Celsius conditions, and it was massive scale in Russia. Now it stopped because winter, was over. Winter is coming again, and it gets worse every year now. Putin does not have the hundreds of billions of dollars it would cost to fix this all over the country. It would take well over a decade. It would take a lot of work. There's no way out of this situation for him and for Russia. So expect in 2 months, maybe when it's like -15, -20 already in January 25, in 2 months, expect a massive catastrophe, civilian catastrophe in Russia of heating infrastructure. It happened already in a smaller scale. It's going to happen in a bigger scale again this year. It will be bad. And again, like sanctions, it's not connected to the military, but it will divert a lot of money and attention from the war in Russia because people are literally freezing to death. Expect it, and I'm going to cover it. Now, my friends, we found out what is the finite amount of what Russian government fined Google in Russia. Yes, they fined, everybody was waiting for the amount. Now it came out, and I'm not kidding you. This is real. This is official. Russia fined Google 1.9 times 10 to the 15 times greater than the current global GDP. About 5 times 10 to the 12 days have passed since the start of the universe. So even if Google gave Russia everything the world produced this year, every day since the universe began, it would only have paid about 3% of the fine. And you can see it here. This is the number correct on the screen. This is how much Russian government fined Google in rubles. 2 undecillion rubles, equivalent to, I don't know, this massive amount. This is because YouTube, owned by Google, YouTube blocked 17 channels connected to Russian government, official Russian channels, including Soloyo channel. Of course, Google will not pay it. I mean, no way they will. They cannot. I mean, all of the world's wealth could not pay this number. So that means Russia will seize Google's assets in Russia. That's how they work. They fine a crazy amount, and the company won't pay, and then they just nationalize the assets. So Google's assets will be nationalized by Russia in the next half a year. But we have never seen anybody in the world being fined officially such a large number yet. It's so many zeros, it's almost beautiful. Now, my friends, as in every video, I'll be butchering some Buy Me a Coffee monthly members with my Estonian pronunciation. Are you a new member? Expect your name to be butchered in a gruesome way. We start with Someona. As always, welcome back, Someona. Ozeir, David Marsk. Only 3 names today. So if you want to make that list longer, maybe to 4 names, sign up. Link is in the description below. If you're a monthly member, I'll be butchering your name. Until my next video, my friends, which will be on Monday, be sure to be back. Slava Ukraini, and bye-bye.